Well, good morning again, YouTube. Thanks for watching. I've got this tailpiece here, and I'm gonna make me a patch for this area right here. So let me get it off the car, and we'll cut it up and start working on it. Well, I got my little emblem off of here. It was kind of bent, this whole thing here. It was a little brass screw. I was able to get it out without ruining it. Cut it off with a cut-off tool. And I made a couple pieces here. You can see what I did. I made this one with a little round edge, so that'll give it some strength. And then I just cut a plate that would cover the hole and put it in there. Now I didn't try to get any of this curve of this mounting surface or anything. So basically I'm just gonna squish this full of fiberglass and protect my wells. And I'll try to fill it on the corners here, but I've got it ground down good enough to the body fill it. And I did have I put a straight piece in. This had a curve. They were both kind of bent. I did the best I could. I figured I'd try to get the rest of this curve in here with Bondo. You're not going to see it a whole lot because that's on the bottom, but it don't look too bad. A little fine tweaking and I think it'll be okay. Well, that looks fine. From the top here, curve looks good. You can hardly see it. It's not in all the way yet, but it's good enough. So that's that fiberglass. I had a little left in the can, but that's the end of it. I'll let that harden up, sand it, and then I'll cover it with Bondo. I think I'm going to wire brush this primer I put on here off and use some rust converter on it. See what I can make that a little better. Oh, there it is with the fiberglass kind of sanded up. Looks alright. This has just got a square hole in it. I'll have to figure out some way of mounting it. But now I can finish it up and Bondo it. And then I can tap my holes here to mount it. Clean up some of this stuff, rust converter it, press on. Nail came, and here's some fancy little $15 bolts. Those are my torque converter bolts. And I put those in, and I could hook up the starter. Well, we hit a snag. You can see where this torque converter is. This bolt hole is probably, I don't know, quite a ways away from where it goes to that flex plate. So I don't know if this is I'm fairly certain this flex plate was with the motor. It was on it when I got it anyway, and it's a 360. Now this torque converter was marked as a 360, but there's obviously a difference there. I don't know if it's an early and a late or something like that. But I think what I'm going to do, I'll rotate it around again and make sure that don't have any more holes in it, but I know I only had 4. And I think I'm just going to drill a hole right here. In this flex plate. That torque converter should be, you know, running true. So if my holes are a little bit big, the only thing that will happen is it'll maybe wallow them out, you know, starting and stopping. But that puts a snag in it because I don't want to pull this whole transmission out of here to change the torque converter or the flywheel. I'm going to do a little research first and see if there's any difference in the flywheels and flex plates. Well, I fooled with that for a while. I decided I'd try to bore another hole in the flex plate. I managed to get one in. It looked like it was going to have a little meat left, but basically the hole is, you know, maybe 60. Anyway, I'd say 60%, 70% in the plate. It's right at the edge. It's pretty obvious that torque converter don't fit that flex plate. I rotated it around, all the holes are the same. So what I did was I managed to get one bolt in it and tighten it up real good, and it seems to spin easy. And so I'm going to give this a test here. I run me a battery wire up here, and I should be able just to jump that to that little post there. It should start. I must have something around here. Let me find a jumper. There's a file that'll work. And I poured 4 quarts of oil in it, so I think I'm good there with the oil. And I'm putting the light here so I can watch up there. If I see any oil coming out, then I'll stop it right away. But it was lubricated pretty good. I don't think what's in the transmission, what no oil is there, is going to hurt it. Let's give it a try. Put the distributor in. It's working good. Well, it's turning good. Don't see any oil pressure yet. I probably ought to take that filter off of there and see if there's anything in it, fill it up. I know I got all that oil pump pickup and everything in there, right? Well, I didn't really hear any bad grinding or anything. So I checked this. This is the original gauge, by the way. I checked this. This is the original gauge. 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 I checked this. I checked this with air, and the needle's moving, and I can also see in that plastic line if oil's moving. I went over to the other side and loosened the filter up, and oil started running out, so I think the filter's full of oil. So I should be real close to having oil pressure. I don't know how much I had in the galleys or anything. Well, don't see nothing. You know, that starter's not sounding all that great. Maybe I ought to take that oil line off there. I'm pretty sure that it was working. I have to go back to my old videos and take a look. I do see a little oil in this line here. Try it again. Yep, it's moving. There we go. We got oil pressure. It looked like that was about 15 pounds. So I don't know how good that battery is. It's been sitting for probably a year out there in that old truck. And of course I've only, like I said, I've got one bolt in that starter, so it's not really grabbing good. It's not warm yet. I'm gonna put the battery charger on it and charge it up, see if I can get another bolt in there in the starter. These will fit. They won't really tighten up or anything, and kind of loose. But anyway, I'm going to put another bolt in the starter, put it on the charger, and I do see I have 15 pounds of oil pressure with the battery dying, so let's see if we can get a little more out of it. Well, when I went back to the battery, I was surprised it turned over at all. Those are brand new cables, and I just slayed them on the battery. They weren't even finger tight. So I tightened them up, and I put another bolt in the starter, hooked the charger up to it, and let's see what kind of turning ability we have now. Looks like this. Not warm. Well, we got 30 and 1 mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marks is 15, so 3. So we got 33 pounds on the starter. That's probably plenty good. You could hear it bogging down a little. That oil's hitting stuff. And I've only got one bolt in that torque converter. welding and going down slow. So that's probably getting oil around to the bearings. That's all good. Glad to hear it. So really all I got to do is finish up those torque converter bolts, but I think they'll be good enough. I put a big washer on there so it'll cover up where I've ground through the thing. There's something about a balanced and imbalanced flywheel. The 360 is supposed to be a neutral balance. The 318 is supposed to be balanced. But you know, that torque converter was marked 360. May not have been a 360, but I didn't see any balancing weights on it. And I think once it's in and bolted up, the power is going to be just transferred one way, and that would be, you know, through the to one side of the bolt. It's not going to go back and forth. So when I get the final deal done, I'll put some Loctite on those torque converter bolts, bolt her down real good. I get the right starter bolts. These would probably work like they are, but you know, that is a good bolt. It's just way too long. Can't believe my whole shop only had one of those bolts. Anyway, over 30 pounds of oil pressure and crank, so I think we're going to be good to go at starting it. Well, I started getting this in here. First thing I did was use a spot drill. I just drill it real close to the edge, and then I used a small drill. Oh, where it's at. Anyway, I got a little small drill, and then I used this drill, and that opened me up a hole big enough to get this one in. And of course I can elongate the hole. This is almost perfect. It's screwed right in. I was able just to shove this in there, and the bolt screws in good. I went through here and I've basically started all four of these bolts. Let's see, that's going in good. I don't know if I ought to put Loctite on these things, or I'm going to just go ahead and turn it around and make sure I can get all my bolts in it, and then I'll take them out and put Loctite in them one at a time. So I got to go at least a couple of rounds. And I've got me a big breaker bar set up here to turn the motor over. It's pretty easy. Well, this one had to chew up pretty good. I started the hole straight across from the little hole, but you can see how big of a slot I had to put in it there. You know, a couple grams of weight would be I don't know how much metal I cut out of there. But this one, I think I'm gonna put a washer on it and tack weld a washer onto the onto the shaft there. Try to make up for some of that, make up for some of the weight that I cut out of there. But it's pretty crooked. The other one turned out just fine. I'm going to tighten this down just a little and rotate it around and see what the next one looks like. Well, I had to hog that one out pretty good. You can sort of see it's on the upper side of the bolt. The last one was down on the lower side. I'm hoping it's centered. We'll find out. But anyway, this is I use a bigger washer than I needed, and I pulled it all the way out here, so it's pretty tight on the back. And I'm going to weld this here on the flex plate, and then I'm going to go 180 degrees. I'm going to put the same washer on the other side and see what that looks like. Well, I believe that's ready for welding. I used pretty big washers that I could pull off to the side. I've got them you know, away from the center line of the crank as much as I could. I tightened them all down. The hole's a little big for the bolt head, but the other washers I had were thinner, and I was afraid I was going to get some weld on the bolt itself. So I think I can, and I got 4 of them on here all the same. I think I can just weld this up. I'll just weld them all on top, because I can make a decent little bead across there. Try to get them all the same size, and then we'll put the starter in it and see what happens. Well, I got all 4 of those welded in. Don't know what to say about that. Did a pretty good welding job. I tried to keep the welds the same size for the weight. So I put one on top and one on the bottom. I'm sure they're holed, and who knows. I mean, I did some digging and searching, and it turns out there's a high stall and a low stall torque converter, and they use a little different ring gears, and apparently the low stall is about half as big as the one I got here. And so I think this is a high stall torque converter. And that's why that ring gear is so big. And in order for it to bolt upright, they had to move the bolts on the inside. So I got a high stall torque converter and 360 standard crankshaft. This is probably for a low stall converter, but if it works and this is all right, then I should have a hell of a hole shot here, because it'll bring it up pretty high on the torque before it ever hits. We'll see. And there's also an external and internal valence. The Magnum engine was supposed to be internal, and there's a way you can tell by looking here at the dampener pulley. but I'm just going to put it together and get it running. And either it vibrates like hell and it's wrong, so I'll have to figure out exactly what motor this is and get another torque converter. Well, it depends on if this torque converter works, but get the right flywheel to match up to this torque converter if it's good, and if it's not, then I'll have to get a flywheel and a torque converter. So at this point, this is as good as we can get with what we got. I'm going to put the starter in it. I think I'm going to loosen all these bolts up, turn it around once, you know, just turn it around, loosen up the bolts, and then start tightening them again. So any stuff that happened here when I was welding it, any stretch or whatever, I'll loosen it, and it'll go to the center hopefully. I'll tighten it up again and we'll be good to go. Well, it's all back in and tightened up. I went around all of them, loosened them, tightened them back up. I tightened the cable up good here. Hooked my oil gauge back up. Yep, coming right up to 30 pounds. Turning pretty good. I've got a compression gauge around here somewhere. I'm going to see if I can find it and see if I can check the compression on this thing. Well, I couldn't find my compression gauge. I did clean up a lot of trash, but didn't ever find the gauge. So I stuck my finger in here and it blows them out pretty good. Don't look like the compression's all the same, but I put all the plugs in it, and let's see what it turns over against compression. Well, it's turning it over against compression. Not the best in the world, but like I said, that battery's not real good. Did turn it over pretty good there for the first few turns. I didn't notice if I had any oil pressure. Let's try it again. Yeah, it's dead. Well, I'll put charger on it and we'll give it a go, let it charge up, try it again. Well, I put the charger on battery boost. Let's see what happens now. Yeah, it's turning it over good. Plenty good enough to start it. Well, I was gonna put the distributor in, got it set on number 1. I have to make the wires up. I was just gonna make up some wires, use these old plugs, throw a little gas in there and see if we could start it. No carburetor, no anything, but it's kind of a waste of time. What I do have left, I've got a couple plates here that's for this back half of the motor mount. I made them a long time ago, I just never drilled them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and mock up these two motor mounts and bolt that motor in solid now that the transmission is all done. Any slack or whatever I have or movement, I can fix that on these motor mounts. That's one of the reasons I never did put it in there. So I'm going to make these motor mounts. I got me a seal for the rear of the transmission, and the drive line is just kind of hanging there. So I'm going to pull that drive line out, clean it up and paint it, put the seal in, and then hopefully put it all back together. So that's for today. I get these two motor mounts made and the drive line in. That'll kind of complete the drivetrain. I got this one drilled out, and I don't know what it was, 6 inches in the front, and this is about the same, but it's a little shorter in the back because the motor's tilted down and those motor mounts are parallel to the ground. Air compressor drives me crazy. So both of those are painted up. I painted them a long time ago before I drilled the holes in them. But just looking at it, you know, that's a big old ugly hole there. And might be better if I put some kind of a little cover or something on it, you know. I think it would look better. You don't need to have a big old hole there. Just something to cover it up. Let me see if I can find a little piece of metal. Yeah, anything there would work. You know, it's a big old hole, not so big old hole. I could actually make it fit inside the bracket here and just tack weld it. That way you see the brackets. But yeah, I need to make some kind of little cover for that. I don't want to cover it up too much because it's hard to get it's hard to see to get those washers in. This one here in particular on the bottom is kind of hard, but that'll work fine. Just a little cover plate for that. Now, anyway, I'm gonna get the other little leg for this side over here. I've got it cut up. I don't know where it's at. It's around here somewhere. Might be laying on top of that motor. Might be in the corner. But I gotta jack this one up. Put the 4 washers in it so it matches the other side. And there was something, I don't remember what it was, but these things were different from side to side. And this little bolt I got here is not long enough. I need another bolt. Yeah, I think this one's got to be spaced back of that mount on the motor, like about 1/2 inch. I might need to start checking that a little bit more on how it's on center and stuff. I know these top bolts are tight, but that bottom one isn't for sure. Anyway, I'll find a little piece and get the holes bored in it. Well, there's that second bracket. I just marked it the same size as the passenger side and put it on there, and man, it was way off, a good 1/2 inch. I tried drilling a hole in it, didn't get it right. Anyway, what I wound up doing is welding up both those holes, grinding them down, measuring it again, and marked it. This time I got it right. That's clearing the block. I had to grind that down some, and the 1/2 inch is going in there straight. I got to get some bolts. I got to get a big 1/2 inch for that. But anything that's left on this thing, I'm gonna tweak it and get it fitting. And I threw a level on it up there, so it's level right here. So basically just bolt this one up. Paint, bad news. Anyway, got me a set of new spark plugs today. Old Champions. I always like Champions, some people don't, but these are probably 30, 40 years old. But I'm going to use them. They'll look good. I'll show you in a second. Well, they all went in real nice. I'll probably have to take them out again, but I just finger screwed them in there just to keep dirt out. And so I got new plugs now. Good thing I didn't try to hook them all up with those wires. But that's a distributor I need, or that I'm going to use. And I got to build my wires. So I'll probably fool around and make some kind of a wire harness and cut all these wires and put the wires on it. I did get that AFB, it's coming, so it'll be here in a few days. I got another carburetor I could stick on it, probably start it. But for now, we'll just keep putting little things on it. I need to go in there and wire up my starter and all of this stuff too. And I've got a transmission cooler around here somewhere. I stuck it up here where I could find it, and of course can't find it now. I'm not sure where it's at. So, but I want to hook it up and, you know, put 4 or 5 quarts of transmission fluid in here at least. Just have something that the pump can pump around before I do start it. Anyway, just pressing along a little bit at a time. Well, I found that it was just covered with Bondo dust. It's kind of small, and they gave me enough hose for one and one fitting. I had some other reinforced gas hose, and it looks like it's maybe a couple foot short. And I had some of this gas line left over. I don't know where I put it. It's around here somewhere. But I got enough 3/8 aluminum line to finish hooking that up. I'll have to get a couple fittings, and that shouldn't be too bad. I'll just route this approximately where it's going to go. I know where the radiator is going to go. I don't need to have the radiator in it to start it, and I'll just tie that cooler there, tie it with the zip ties up out of the way. And I need to get belts and put the fan on, quite a bit of stuff. but I'll be starting this thing here probably, I guess, tomorrow. We'll see.